So when I was thinking about like how to frame Candace and her experience for you, I was like, you know what, someone's probably already said it best, and sure enough, that was true. I looked at some of the recommendations on her LinkedIn profile, and this one just really struck me. The founder of a SaaS startup that raised $66 million has since been acquired. Here's his statement. Within a few minutes of interviewing Candace, we knew we would hire her. Her curiosity, her EQ, her record of traction fascinated us, and she was exactly what you would want in the first business development hire you would make for a startup. She was coachable, tenacious, well-spoken, competitive, and a better writer than anyone I had seen. I would encourage you to consider how you can emulate some of those skills, because that is wild praise. She is a policy primer scholar for the Aspen Institute. She's a two-time University of Michigan alum, undergrad in policy and business, including a certificate in entrepreneurship. While she was here, she's on the rugby club, and she was a Graham Institute sustainability scholar, where she started cutting her teeth in what has now become her professional career, all things climate. She then, after a couple years in the real world, traveling actually the real world, working all throughout Asia, decided to come back and get her grad degree. Maybe we'll break down a little bit of that path for her, but she ended up getting it in biostatistics, and now has become the founder and the CEO of a membership-based small business called ClimateVine that has 350 members and is highly regarded among people that don't have time to lend. So that kind of speaks to you about the value that it has. Please help me welcome our fellow alum and Michigan community member, Candace Amori.
Hi, everyone. In a short intro, I wanted to cover some hard-won thoughts on climate, a short personal exercise, which you all have in front of you, and then some concrete tips on doing a lot of what I focus on, which is building community, building relationships that are both genuine and amazing and thoughtful and heartwarming, but also can be really helpful to your career and the impact that you want to make. I've been a finance person, a tech person, a data science person. I've been a VC, I've been an angel investor, and now I'm a community builder in climate. And through these different roles, I've tried to understand our current reality and tried to really look at it from all of those lenses. And I've built a climate perspective that I want to share with you all briefly that is potentially unique, potentially new, or potentially not, but hopefully will ground you in some of how I think about climate given, again, these different lenses. So where I'm going to start is the understanding that for the last 100 years, we've essentially lived through a historical anomaly where we've had relative global stability, we've had prosperity, we've had really some amazing things, right? We've had lower child mortality rates, we've had higher literacy, we've had less extreme poverty. So a lot of good things have happened in the last 100 years that are different and accelerated and much better than they've been in the 10,000 years before that. And I was really lucky to be born in this period. I have parents that immigrated from Iraq. I have a dad who sustained our family with a convenience store. And I've lived 35 years in this era of abundance, this era of prosperity that I think a lot of us here have lived in. Probably all of us in the last 100 years. And the underpinnings of this modern, pretty magical world is really cheap, easy to transport, and abundant fossil fuels. And so I just want to ground us in how actually amazing they've been for us, like how much good they've given to us over that 100 years. And obviously on the flip side, in less than 200 years that we've been burning fossil fuels, we've burned a pretty decent chunk of what took millions of years to form. And we're starting to sense maybe a more and more confused, an unusual Earth system as a result. So we can think about today, it's a beautiful day, I love it. It's not totally usual, right? 35 years ago, it probably wouldn't have looked like this. And yet, even though we understand this, every year we seem to be hungrier and hungrier for energy. So in just the last 30 years, which if you look at this, the clock is actually trying to point at 30 years, but it looks like it's just still pointing at the top, right? Like it's a blip in time of our 12,000 years on this planet. But 12,000 years of prior human history, we have consumed less energy and less raw materials than we have in the last 30 years. And so again, I just want to ground us in how much of an anomaly this moment in time really has been over these last, again, 130 years. 5 years ago, as of 2020, all of the mass on the left, so that's concrete, human-made mass, concrete, steel, plastic, now weighs more than the biomass. So humans, including us, we're animals, plants, fungi, now weigh less than human-made materials. And so, of course, we've had a huge impact on this planet. Built a lot of great things, but again, a huge impact. And every year, it seems like we have a hungrier energy demand. And so last year, 2024, energy demand grew a little over 2%. And if we continue at that rate, in 10 years, we'll have to produce 25% more, a quarter more of energy. In 50 years, we'll have to produce 3 times more energy. That's extrapolating a rate right now that is really high. I don't think we're actually going to continue on that rate, mostly because we can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. And said in a different way, markets assume endless expansion, but the physical world has these hard limits. And over again, there have been all these scares about us outpacing this finite world. And we've always actually been resilient. We've always sort of pushed past that with tech, with finance, with all of these innovations. And so the question remains, can tech save us? And I've been working in tech and climate tech for a while now, and seen a lot of different examples and talked to thousands of people in the space. And I've come to think of 3 reasons why it's not going to necessarily make it possible for infinite growth on a finite planet forever, right? Like, we're gonna have to hit some of these bounds, and we already are hitting some of these bounds. And so the first thing is Jevons paradox. How many of you know that? If you raise your hand, Jevons paradox. Okay. I think it's like an engineering principle that I assume more people would know, but it's essentially the idea that with more efficiency, you end up using more of something instead of less. So efficiency gains don't necessarily reduce demand. So an example are LED lights. So the more LED lights that we put in, the cheaper the energy is. And actually today, we probably use as much energy on light, or a little bit, we use less, but it's a lot less than we would assume, because we actually just use light so much more. It's cheaper, it's efficient. We don't turn off our lights, right? We have very little incentive to do that. And so efficiency gains, like I said, just let us do more cheaply. They're helpful, but they don't reduce demand as much as we would want. Okay, but what about fusion, right? Like, fusion would be amazing, abundant, it'd be clean, it would be cheap energy. That would totally save us, right? And it would go a long way. We'd be able to desalinate more water. We wouldn't have as much fresh water, scarcity. And at the same time, we still face degraded systems. We still have material and soil to think about. It's not, the end-all, be-all. Thank you. And then the last thing, and these are just the things that I think about because the tech space thinks about them most. And I'm sure you all have thought about this as well. But AI could be this thing that, again, saves us, that solves our climate problem for us. And there are a lot of really fantastic applications. So one example is our grid has to, in real time, manage a bunch of distributed resources, like rooftop solar, for example, batteries. And it's been really hard to manage because we haven't been able to use real-time data to then manage the grid. AI is a breakthrough in that. It actually allows us to use distributed energy in a way that we haven't been able to before. And the #1 profitable use case for AI today is to make it more efficient to get oil, gas, coal out of the ground. And so it's accelerating the fossil fuel use to meet the higher energy demand that we have today. At the same time, as yes, it's being helpful to clean energy, but the things that may pace up more quickly are the things that might make more money, which might be in fossil fuels. So think about how AI is used is very important here. And the last point that I want to make around this is climate disruptions are already forcing market failures. And so this is my image of insurers. It's a little grainy. But insurers are often thought of as this backbone of the economic system. And even they're retreating from entire natural disaster-prone regions. So I think about tech, I think about finance. Again, that's my background. And so facing all of this can definitely be scary. It can bring about a lot of fear in me. I have absolutely felt this, and I know that that's often a conversation in climate. But I actually think that, and have been working on, all of the opportunities here. And so I think about, squinting kind of sideways at everything that I just shared, at the anomaly of the last 100 years, 200 years, at where we're at now, at how advanced we are, and how we all want to live as humans. And I think, we can either see the rabbit or the duck. I wish one was like a scary dragon and the other one was like a nice rabbit, and you could sort of squint sideways, because ducks and rabbits are both pretty great. But the point is, if you look at this sideways, you can see something different. And what I often see is a really cool opportunity that becomes visible. And part of why I see this is because I know so many people working in this space who are doing incredible work that we'll talk about. And there is an opportunity to make money. There is an opportunity to start companies. There is an opportunity for economic prosperity, even in a transition to clean energy. If you can make more energy cheaper and more abundant, which, again, I think we'll talk about in terms of spaces to be in, you'll be good there. But I think there's also an opportunity to transform how we live and what we prioritize as society, so it's really better for all. So the three main points are that infinite growth on a finite planet will continue to hit real physical walls. Fear is a normal human response that I even feel in the climate space. And we have these opportunities to, again, shape the future for ways that are better for all. And so that's my priming. I hope that it's both giving you a realistic lens of what things look like and teaching you some things that you maybe didn't know before, some fun facts you can share if you want to, and also inviting us into, great, now what do we do, right? Like if we're ready to take advantage of these opportunities, where do we go from here? Two things that I want to note on that is strengthening local power, local community, local energy, local resilience is really important. And that's sort of aside. That's a lot of where I spend my time. Again, we can go deeper into that and unpack what that means. But that's where I'm spending my time in the climate space. And the last thing I want to say before we go into the activity is we need everyone, and we need every sort of perspective. And so there are a lot of people fighting the old. There are a lot of activists thinking about how to stop fossil fuels. I'm imagining that in a room like this, you're less interested in fighting the old and more interested in building the new. And what I would invite you to do if you are working on building the new, and that's the choice that you make, is to let go of everything that you don't control and all of the bad. Just focus on what you're building that's new. Make sure it's cheaper and better, and people like it better, and your customers like it better on that new thing, and eventually it'll crowd out that old thing. So now we're going to go into the exercise, which is essentially asking you all, what's your role in building the new? And so you all have a piece of paper in front of you. We're going to take a couple minutes. And the reason why I brought this up is, it can be hard to figure out where to start. And Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson has this great framing for how to do this. It's the climate ikigai diagram. And so where I want you all to start is, what are you good at? And truly just take a minute. Please play with me right now. Please do it with me. I'm begging you. So 1 minute, what are you good at? Think about maybe what your major is. Think about maybe, what your club sports are or your club activities. Think about what you really like to do because you're good at it. And so let's start with what are you good at? Take a minute. I'll give you a second. All right, next, go to what work needs doing. You don't need to have some sort of large thesis on climate, but you understand what work needs to be doing, right? Or needs doing. Spend a second, write down 3 things: food systems, energy, water pollution, what work needs doing. And top of mind, right? Like, what are the first 3 things that come to mind besides what I just said? All right, the last one is what brings you joy. And that could be something as specific as your nephew or your pet. That could be something as broad as playing sports. But what brings you joy? What makes you really happy? On the right, once you're done, on the right of the document, there's this sort of blank space where you can think about different things that you could do. And so we can take it in one of 2 directions. One direction is if you want to go really broad and you actually want to be in the climate space or you want to make an impact, you could write in there at least one idea of a career, a job, a company, something that you could commit your life to, next, right? The next thing. So some examples. You could run your family's convenience store while doing climate activism that likely wouldn't pay for it on the side, right? That's what I thought I might do after graduating from my master's, is run a company that wasn't in climate, do activism on the side. Totally fine option. You could say that you want to go all in on geothermal. You've learned a lot about geothermal, and you want to find a role or a company that suits you. You could say that you just care about marketing, and you don't care what job it is, you hope it's in climate, but you're really good at marketing. You could, if you want to go a small business route, you could say, I'm going to buy an HVAC company and ramp up the heat pump arm of the company. So many different options for you, big scale, small scale, whatever it is. The other thing you can do is say, the one thing I'm going to do is read more about geothermal, right? Like, I don't know enough about it, so let me do that. Or read more about heat pumps, or talk to one person who understands this better than I do. So if you have this broader sense, you want to be in climate, go ahead and write that sort of career thing that you're thinking about. And regardless, write the one thing, the one next step that you're going to make that is really small. So talking to someone, reading more about something, looking up something, one small step. And that's the most important thing, is that one small next step. So something I'll invite you to do after this is actually put it in your calendar, or give yourself an alarm. By next Friday, I'm going to do this one thing. Commit to it, do it. Should be small enough, should be achievable. But what I'm going to ask you to do right now is just tell someone next to you what you're going to do and shake on it. So whoever's next to you, you two are great, you're close enough, just tell each other and shake on it. Say, here's the one action I'm going to do. Okay, everyone good? Everyone ready? Great. Cool. So that actually took longer than I expected, but we're going to go through some other things that I think will be pretty practical. I'll be quick. But a lot of the work that I do is in community, like we said. It's about relationship building. That's important for everything that you do. Whatever job you have, in every job that I've had, understanding people, being friends with people, and actually genuinely caring about them has been the most important thing. Not just to my career, but like to my sense of well-being, right? So it goes both ways. One thing that I talk about a lot is non-transactional versus transactional relationships. And a transactional relationship is when you have a means to an end. So I say, Carol, I actually want money from you, and I'm going to make you like me because I really want money from you eventually. Or I could say, Carol, you seem really great. You might have money, but like, I actually really want to get to know you and understand who you are, and we'll see where things go. Maybe you'll invest in my company one day, but I actually want your opinion. I trust you. We're values aligned. I don't have that very clear idea of where I want to go with this relationship that's transactional. So I'm focused more on, in a transactional relationship, it's immediate short-term gain. So again, I have this goal. I want you to invest in me, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get you to invest in me. There's limited emotional investment. So I'm not going to ask you about your family. I'm not going to ask you about what you like to do, because I don't really care, because I have that thing in the back of my mind. And it probably lacks some depth. Whereas if it's a non-transactional relationship, you probably want to talk to people that you're aligned with in terms of values. Maybe you've shared your values, or they've shared their values, and you align on that. You're prioritizing real relationships. You're thinking about the long term. You actually want to be in this person's life for the long term, potentially. And you're there to foster support. You're there to be helpful to them. They can be helpful to you too, right? It's a two-way, it's a reciprocal relationship. But you also want to build trust, right? You want them to trust you, and you want to trust them. And if those things aren't there, I would say it's not a relationship. It's using someone, or it's just an acquaintance, right? Like, these are, I think, the factors of a real relationship that can be really meaningful in all sorts of ways. Building deep relationships, small gestures matter. And again, I'm trying to just be very tactical here. These might be obvious, but I do think they go a really long way, and I don't think a lot of people do them. Something I didn't put up here is send thank you notes. And not all of these things are things that I do, but some of them are things I aspire to do more of. If you send a physical thank you note, or even just an email, that goes a really long way these days. Physical is better. So one thing that I often do is if I read an email or I see an article and it reminds me of someone, I just send it to them. And I'm like, Eric, this made me think of you this morning. Send it. I don't even say, how are you sometimes, because that's a back and forth in text maybe he doesn't want. Say, hey, thought of you, hope things are going well. Like, that can be enough, and that can be just a nice thing to do over time, so that I'm not just reaching out to someone when I have an update or when I have an ask, right? It's actually more genuine. And when I think about someone, I do something about it. If I admire something about them, I say it, usually, right? I'm like, Eric, you do a really good job of running these. This is very fun. I'm very honored to be here. I also talk well about people behind their backs as much as I can. That ends up being told to that person in front of their back. And I will often tell people, hey, we were just talking about how great you were. And that just makes people feel good. But if you talk poorly about people, one, are they your friend? Maybe you should just talk to them face to face. And two, it might get back to them, and that just ruins trust. The thing that we have had as an ethos throughout is give 2 times more than you hope to receive. And that's something that members over and over again speak back to me. They say, give 2 times more than you hope to receive. When enough people are doing that, it creates this magic. I'm going to bring that into my life. And something that I always do is I always ask, how can I be helpful? And so in every conversation, even if I'm coming to someone for help, I'll often just start it with saying, like, hey, what are you working on? How can I be helpful? And then maybe I'll ask my thing at the end, even if the entire call came about because I sent an ask. I just am always asking, how can I be helpful? At the end of an email, how can I be helpful? Now, what happens when you actually need help? 2 things. Be really direct and be really clear. If I get an email from someone that says, hey, you know this person, can you intro me? Great, super easy. I will do it. It takes me 5 minutes. If I get an email that says, hey, can we have a 30-minute call or 50-minute call? I get on that call and I realize that the one thing they wanted was an intro to someone. Like, wow, I wish you had just told me that, because that would have been, unless it's a catch-up. But if it's a really transactional ask, just tell me what you want, and I will more than happily do that for you. And I think that's really true of anyone. Everyone's busy, right? Like, just tell them what you want, and then make it incredibly easy for them to do that. And so I do often get asked for intros, right? If it's someone who's raising and they say, hey, you know this investor, would you mind introing me? If I know that person well enough, we've built a relationship, it's not the first ask that they've given me, I trust them, I've heard good things about them, I know them well enough to do that, I'm super happy to do that. And I will always ask the investor if they want the intro. So I always do double opt-in intros. And I will ask them to send me a note that says, hey, Candace, thanks for offering to intro me to so-and-so VC. Here's who I am, here's my LinkedIn, here's my company, here's all the information you need. If you want to book a call, here's my Calendly. It's the easiest, simplest email that I can send to someone, and it takes away the work that I have to do. I just press forward. It takes away the work that the other person has to do. Bonus points, if this is something that can be answered over email, say that in the email, especially if you're trying to get an intro or email someone that's really busy. It just shows that you're really kind. I just thought of the story of Oprah with Maya Angelou. She said, hey, can I have 5 minutes? And at 5 minutes, she said, thank you so much. It was the first time she met Maya Angelou. They were besties, friends, long story, right, or long relationship. But I think at 5 minutes, Oprah said, great, thank you so much for your time. And Maya was like, who are you? And I want to get to know you more, because that respect of someone's time, especially when they're busy or asking something of them, just goes such a long way, because not everyone does that, right? Okay. So quickly, landing a climate job, these are all the same things that are true of starting a company, I would say, actually. So the number one thing that I want to say is you have to decide on where you're going to build expertise. And you can decide that in a couple ways. One, what is your sector? So I've said geothermal, I've said nuclear, you can do water, you can do all sorts of different sectors, but pick your sector, please, or pick your skill set. So you can say, I'm a really good machine learning engineer, I'm a really good biotech person, right? And these skills are material scientists. And actually, I can use these skills in a lot of different sectors, but I'm really good at that, and that's where I'm narrowing down. Even better if you can say, I'm a material scientist and I work on critical minerals, right? Like, I'm an expert in both of those things, and I can have them intersect. But you have to go deep and understand what you're really good at and continue to learn about that space, talk to people, give 2 times more than you hope to receive. You can give as a student. You have connections, you have networks, you have resources, you have all sorts of things that you can give. And asking how you can help someone, especially in your position, and giving them some suggestions of how you can help is awesome. People love that, they will remember that, and they will help you later. And I think the last thing is, once you've done all this work and you understand where you want to go, just go after it. Email a founder that you want to work with. Email someone that you want to be a co-founder with. Once you're specific, it gets a lot easier to understand where you want to go and then start doing some of those things. Or you can make whatever job you have a climate job, totally possible. And either way, just focus on what you can do next. So don't think about the grand career arc. It's going to surprise you no matter what. what's the next best thing that is interesting you, that is an opportunity opening up to you right now? So the last things that I'll say, and this was my cheat sheet, is presence above all else I think takes care of a lot of these things, right? If I'm present with you, I want to get to know you, I'm interested, I'm curious, we're gonna build real relationships, and also I'm gonna learn a lot in the process. Focus on how you can serve instead of what you can get. Serve the moment in front of you. So climate is this big space. There's a lot there. The world is big. Things are changing every day. I have had to, and I'm not, again, great at it, but I've had to try to narrow my focus and narrow my lens to just understand that this is the impact that I can make today. I want to ignore all of the noise. Maybe I don't want to read the news today. And I'm going to focus on what I have to do today that can make the biggest impact. Try, learn, iterate, try new things, iterate, try new things, and learn. And then relax, smile, take it easy. Again, I don't do all of this all the time, but at my best, I'm reminding myself that these are, I think, life cheat sheets that help me do all those other things that I just said.
Thank you very much, Candace. Students, that advice she gave you about building relationships and earning people's trust and engaging with them is gold, absolute gold. And once you get into your career and you get further down the road and you start building professional networks, you will increasingly realize that. If I can, I'd love to send out a couple of these slides to them. Absolutely. So they have afterward. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to unpack a couple things here with the time that we have left. And by the way, thank you for submitting some great questions along the way. One of them that you asked that I want to immediately get to is, what are the most overlooked parts of climate change and kind of action around climate change and industries that are developing that would be the best places for people in their position to look at entering for entry-level careers?
It's a great question. A lot of the work that we do or have done has been around understanding lever points in the system. So systems thinking, there are these lever points where you can make an outsized impact because they are blockers potentially. And so where are the blockers where you can make an impact, I think is how I would think about that question. A lot of the spaces that I think are most interesting today, and it's changed a lot in the last 8 months. So politically, a lot of things have changed, obviously, and physically, a lot of things have changed. AI, data centers. The last year, my answer a year ago would have been very different. Today, one of the bigger blockers is power that's clean. And so our energy demand has risen again a lot this year, mostly to meet AI and data center demand. And so the spaces that are most interesting are nuclear, geothermal, distributed resources. Nuclear and geothermal are still getting a lot of the tax rebates and the rebates that solar and wind used to get. But I still think distributed resources are going to be really interesting. Solar is now cheaper than all other fossil fuels. That's exciting. So power generation is important. Nuclear and geothermal are getting more government help, but the other spaces I think are still really good places to be in. I have a lot more, sorry. Grid infrastructure. The grid is getting old, and we need some updates, and we need updates that don't cost a ton. And so that can be a software update to the grid, it can be a hardware update to the grid, but the grid infrastructure to actually meet the rising energy demand, huge space, a lot of energy there. Critical minerals, that's another sort of lever point, right? Like, we need the grid, we need power. The economy is sort of demanding of that right now. Critical minerals are really important. Supply chains are hard right now with China owning a lot of the critical minerals. And so anything that you can do in material science, in even lithium for batteries or any sort of battery material, that's all very, again, like a lever point there. The last thing that there are so many, but the last one that I think is sort of overlooked is just water. I think water is going to be a bigger constraint. There's an intersection between the water that's needed to create energy, the energy that's needed to create water and move water. And I think that intersection doesn't get as enough play as it will in 2 to 3 years.
What is the one thing, so like all of those, when they're thinking about wanting to start a company related to water, geothermal, nuclear, what have you, what is the pain point you have seen consistently that founders go through in monetizing solutions to climate?
When you said pain point blank, I was going to say the business model. I think there are a few things. One, climate solutions are often very different than SaaS tech solutions. They often require some sort of hardware component. and therefore just take more money and will scale more slowly. They take more time to develop, take more money to develop, and then might require, large plants that are hard to finance. And so the two things that I would say about that are, if you are going to start a company that requires a lot of money, get really smart finance people in early to validate that you actually could finance this and that there is a business model. And two, validate that what you have is cheaper, better, faster than what's out there right now. And so if we think about power for AI, they actually care a lot about just how quickly can you get it online. And so if you can prove that you're getting something online more quickly and it's cleaner, that's a huge win. That's what they care about. Generally in the market, we care about cheaper, better. There isn't much of a green premium. If we think about, our company's willing to spend more on clean things, that's not something to really rely on. Subsidies aren't something to rely on. The one caveat that I would say in the sort of business model is there are, Europe, there are entire regions where we're required to share more about our carbon emissions or about our water use. And in that case, you can sell to that sort of market and make a business case, but then you might not be able to sell to the US. And so even just understanding geographically where you're selling and where your business model works can be really helpful. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely does. Another element of that founder struggle as it relates to climate, kind of in a unique manner, is this notion that as you're starting a company, you're looking to grow, you're looking to scale, you're ambitious, you want to get more customers, you want to get more revenue, you want to continue to kind of get higher and higher and higher and more and more and more. And that strikes as a bit antithetical to the notion of climate impact, what's happening long term, what cost all of that growth goes through. How do you coach founders to deal with that, if there is an answer?
So there are a few things that come to mind. One is I've taken the route of saying no to the hyperscaling and saying no to some of the opportunities that have been in that route for a couple reasons. One is my family, my dad owned a convenience store, so I think I'm just sort of biased to small business. I want to build a really strong foundation. I want to understand where in climate, we can hyperscale to be able to, there's just hard questions in climate that I think take years of understanding the science, the market, the tech, all of those pieces. And so I would say one choice is to not scale, actually, to start as more of a small business, or to start with raising a little bit of money, testing things, which you should do anyway. Test things until you understand where those places where you can scale are, and then scale from there. And the companies that I think scale in climate that are doing good for the world are scaling things that are better than what exists right now. And so if you have an energy that's better than what is there right now and it can crowd out, or it's cheaper, or it's better, that's great to scale. I also, as you know, I think I have a lot of critiques of climate tech is the only solution. I think that we just, as we get more clean energy on the grid, we end up using more energy. These are societal issues that I don't have answers to, that I philosophically don't have a lot of good advice to founders except do something good and scale it, and at least you're doing harm reduction, right? We at least know that that's true, but let's also get policy, let's also get activism, let's also get scientists, let's get that whole picture in the room to understand how to do the most harm reduction, do the most good, and have the least potential second or third order consequences that might actually be bad.
Mm-hmm. Two questions off of that. This notion about it being multifaceted, yes, private sector, public sector, NGOs, kind of all hands on deck. You have built an organization and a company that is highly engaging, of people who have a lot of prestige and a lot of experience in the climate world, who have very little time, especially when they're thinking about the issues that are so pressing right now. What has been the collective need that you have heard from these folks about what they feel needs to be done first? What is the priority? Because there's this desire to do everything, but we got to start somewhere. What are those who are at the top and have been at the top saying?
The most common response to that is actually everything. And that's not a cop-out, I don't think. I think it's more of an understanding that climate is literally everything and that there are going to be people that are really good at stopping what's bad, right? Like let those activists do what they need to do to disrupt supply chains that need to end. Let the investors do things like investing in nature, which feels to me like I feel a little bit funny about that. But also, right now, nature can't be protected unless we can invest in it. And I get why we need to do that in the meantime to actually figure out, unlock ways to invest in nature. We do need more clean, like, my whole take on this is we need everyone to understand what they're good at and what they're attracted to and also what their resources are and what they can do. And to go do that one thing and actually, sure, partner with other people, understand that other people are doing other bits so that you can partner with them, you can accelerate things. But I really do think, like, I really do think as skeptical as I am about some of these pieces, we go farther when we're all trying different things. We have more shots on goal, and we can then, accelerate the things that are really working. But I don't think it's all going to be policy or all going to be one piece of it or all geothermal. I think we do everything, we run at everything as quickly as we can. We encourage everyone to do as well as they can. We accelerate what they're doing. We see what works, and then we keep iterating based on that.
Totally fair. Everything is the answer.
Yeah, it feels like a cop-out, but
it's not a cop-out. No, everybody has to do their part.
Yeah.
And every job is a climate job if you want to make it a climate job. Your role as a student can be to be a climate student, even if you're not majoring in it. It's whatever it means to your individual life, to that point about being hyper-local. The second part of that question that I want to get your reaction to is I really appreciate the statement that I've heard made before about focusing on bad systems versus bad actors. What does that mean to you, and how do you feel about that in relation to climate?
Everyone that I meet truly everyone that I meet, because I don't know anyone that I've met who doesn't, thinks climate change is a hoax. I've met some folks, but like, even when I think about I think about my most anti-climate cousins, and when I explain climate in the sense that when we have, worse soil or more chemicals in our soil, we get cancer rates that are higher. And we actually look at how the health of the system is the health of the individual. I think everyone actually, when we come down to the fundamentals, really cares about climate and really cares about future generations and really cares about nature, and everyone loves nature. So everyone that I know, I think, is pretty good and does align when we come down to first principles. The systems are hard, and the systems don't necessarily incentivize taking action on that, right? Like I said with nature, we're not incentivized to protect nature unless we can put a value on it. And as sort of icky as that makes me feel, I see the argument for wanting to raise a lot of money to then protect nature, to invest in it, to do all these things in carbon markets and in nature markets, because that's the only way that the system identifies value. It's monetary value. The last thing I'll say is that there's someone in the data center who's data center space who's super senior, a senior person at a large company, who just in a one-on-one call was like, why are we building all these data centers? I don't want to celebrate when I see this huge, piece of open land, and then I see the image of what a data center would look like on top of that. And so that really, and that happens really often, where I talk to a lot of people who are, building things. He's technically, he's trying to make it cleaner, but even he thinks that some of the work that he's doing, he doesn't want to be doing it in that way. And I want someone like that in that position. I want him to be able to push back and do what he can against the system. And I do really believe that humans are good and the systems are bad, and that's what needs changing.
For sure, and I think part of what helps to fuel more people not only having and carrying that thought, but then acting upon it, is believing that something can be different, something can be better, that there's to your point about looking at what you can do next, there's an optimism that comes with entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. How do you maintain optimism when you've increasingly spoken about being in a position to where you embrace reality and what that means for UN climate goals and the like?
Yeah, I didn't expand on it a ton in the presentation, but I do feel like the way that I think about it, which I'm just going to say crudely and honestly, is
the unfiltered.
Systems are starting to break down, right? Like insurance is starting to not be able to make money, and that's the financial backpinning of a lot of our systems. Institutionally, things are crumbling in some ways, right? They're cracks, let's say. And I used to look at those cracks and just be terrified. And I actually have somehow shifted some of that perspective into, okay, well, if they're cracking anyway, right? Like if this is actual reality, one, I can't predict what's gonna happen. Things are gonna look either way better, way worse than I expect. I have to forget the idea, or let go of the idea that I can predict things, because it's so unpredictable. I might as well think things that can be better than I ever expected, because that's just as likely as it being worse than I expected. So I think that's one reframe. The other reframe is, if things do crack, and if I'm seeing those cracks, that allows for an opportunity to fundamentally shift the system in small ways. And I don't think I or any one individual is going to be able to change the system. I don't think we know what the system is supposed to look like, but I do think that we can have a lot of things that we can put in place today that are helpful for that future time. Local resilience, distributed resources, water, all those things are really important. Also, experiments of what things can look like past those cracks gets me really excited, right? Like understanding a vision and actually building toward that is, to me, what I think is missing from the conversation of collapse and fear and cracking institutions that I was very focused on last year and pretty sad about, and have finally been able to get out of it and say, okay, if this is happening, what do we do about that? And can it actually be an opportunity that presents itself because we're in this crazy anomalous time, right? Like, what are the opportunities here that no other generation of humans would have been able to have?
If that doesn't excite you, then I don't know what's going to. We've got just a quick minute left. If there is one technology, one industry, one innovation that's come about lately that really has your attention, what is it?
I think, so I do actually like geothermal a lot. I don't know enough about it, and if you guys learn more about it, email me and tell me more about it. But everything that I know about it sounds interesting and good. I think when I hear that question, I think a little bit more about political, social innovation, local resilience, local community, and that's just where my head is at right now. And so I'd say technically geothermal has a lot of exciting things going on. Fervo is doing really great work. And then I also think that there's a lot of innovation happening on the social side of things that could be more impactful than the technical side, or as impactful.
No coincidence that geothermal is often very local in itself. So nice segue. Kudos. Yeah. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.